Cuba, way more than cigars and cool cars. When you think of Cuba, what comes to mind? Is it the iconic image of a classic car cruising down the Malecón, or perhaps the rich aroma of a hand-rolled cigar? While these are quintessentially Cuban, there's so much more to this vibrant island nation. Hey everyone, Cuba! Land of sunshine, salsa dancing, and seriously good times. Picture yourself walking down the streets of Havana, where the rhythm of salsa music fills the air, and the energy is absolutely infectious. The beaches are stunning, with crystal clear waters and soft sandy shores that invite you to relax and soak up the sun. But there's more to Cuba than beaches and vintage cars. Beyond the picturesque scenes, there's a rich tapestry of culture, history, and resilience that defines the Cuban spirit. The streets are alive with stories, from the colonial architecture to the vibrant murals that tell tales of struggle and triumph. Its history is way more interesting than Fidel Castro's beard. The story of Cuba is one of revolution and change, marked by the rise of influential figures like Fidel Castro. But Castro is just one chapter in a much larger narrative that spans centuries. We're talking colonization, revolution, and enough drama for a soap opera. From the days of Spanish colonization to the fight for independence, Cuba's history is filled with dramatic twists and turns. The revolutionaries who fought for freedom left an indelible mark on the nation's identity. Get ready, everyone, as we dive into the heart of Cuba's story. We'll explore the landscapes that have witnessed centuries of change, from the lush countryside to the historic landmarks that stand as testaments to Cuba's enduring spirit. From its first people to its fight for freedom, Cuba's past is full of surprises. The indigenous people who first called this island home, the waves of colonizers, and the fierce independence fighters all contribute to the rich mosaic of Cuban history. It's a story of strength, rebellion, and the spirit of people who know how to make the best of a tough situation. The Cuban people have faced numerous challenges, yet their resilience and ability to find joy in the face of adversity is truly inspiring. So grab a mojito, or a Cuban coffee if you need a boost, and get ready to explore Cuba's epic journey. Whether you're sipping on a refreshing mojito or enjoying a strong Cuban coffee, prepare yourself for an adventure through the heart and soul of Cuba. This is a journey that promises to be as enriching as it is entertaining. From Columbus to colony Spain takes over. Imagine this, it's 1492, and Christopher Columbus shows up in Cuba like that unexpected guest who stays way too long. He wasn't just passing through, he was here to stay, and he had big plans. Columbus claimed the island for Spain, marking the beginning of a new era. This wasn't just a visit, it was the start of centuries of Spanish colonial rule. He claims the island for Spain, starting centuries of colonial rule. The Spanish flag was raised, and the conquistadors began their work. They were here to establish a new order, one that would change the island forever. And you know what that means? New bosses, new rules, and a whole lot of "do it my way." The Spanish colonial officials set up their governance, imposing their laws and customs on the local population. It was a complete overhaul of the existing way of life. Spain, like that friend who always wants to borrow your stuff, saw how much Cuba had to offer. They were eager to exploit the island's resources. Spanish ships arrived in droves, bringing more explorers and settlers, all looking to make their fortune. Sugarcane, tobacco, you name it, Cuba had it. The island was rich in natural resources, and the Spanish were quick to take advantage. They established vast plantations, transforming the landscape and the economy. But this newfound wealth came at a price for the Taino, the people who already lived there. The Taino had their own way of life, their own culture and traditions. But the arrival of the Spanish changed everything. Their lands were taken, their communities disrupted. Forced labor, disease, it was a really bad situation. The Taino were forced to work on the Spanish plantations, often under brutal conditions. Many succumbed to diseases brought by the Europeans, diseases to which they had no immunity. Cuba was becoming Spain's sugar factory, but the sweetness came with a bitter taste. The island's economy was booming, but it was built on the suffering of the indigenous people. The sugar mills were churning out wealth for the Spanish, but at a tremendous human cost. The legacy of this period is a complex one, marked by both prosperity and pain. Sugar and sadness, Cuba's tough times. The story of Cuba's sugar industry is one of both prosperity and profound sorrow. Cuba's sugar boom wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. While the fields of sugarcane brought wealth to some, they also brought unimaginable suffering to many others. It was fueled by something even worse than your friend's messy dating life. the transatlantic slave trade. This brutal system saw millions of Africans torn from their homeland, packed into ships under horrific conditions and transported across the ocean. Millions of Africans were taken from their homes and brought to Cuba to work on the sugar plantations. They were forced to labor under the scorching sun, enduring backbreaking work and inhumane treatment. This terrible part of Cuba's past left a permanent mark. The legacy of slavery is etched into the very soil of the island, a dark chapter that cannot be erased. It shaped the island's people, culture, and its very heart. The African influence is deeply woven into the fabric of Cuban society, from music and dance to religion and cuisine. The legacy of slavery is a heavy one, a reminder of how greedy people can be and how strong people can be, even in the face of terrible cruelty. Today, the descendants of those enslaved Africans honor their ancestors, keeping their stories and their spirit alive. The resilience and strength of these people continue to inspire and shape the identity of Cuba. Section 4. Hooray for Independence, the fight for freedom. By the late 1800s, Cubans were tired of Spain's bossy ways. They'd seen enough to know that being ruled by someone far away never works out. So they fought back, machete in hand, shouting, "Hooray for independence!" Think of it like this: Cuba was throwing a huge "we're out of here" party, and Spain wasn't invited. There were poets, generals, and even a brave woman named Mariana Grajales who inspired the troops. It was messy, it was chaotic, but revolutions are rarely organized. Pawn, stuck between two superpowers playing a dangerous game. Section 6. Uncle Sam says no, when the US said no. Remember those awkward family dinners where no one talks? That's basically been the US and Cuba for decades thanks to the US embargo. It's like trying to order a pizza when the delivery guy won't come to your house. The embargo has hurt Cuba's economy, but it's also made them resourceful. Cubans are masters of making things work, keeping those old cars running and finding creative solutions to everyday problems. It shows how strong they are and how they can find the good in a tough situation. Section 7. Cuba today and tomorrow. Salsa, socialism, and what's next. So, where's Cuba now? It's a country changing, finding its place in a world that's always changing. It's still socialist, but it's also opening up to the world little by little. The future of Cuba? That's like trying to guess the next big TikTok dance. But one thing's for sure, this island nation will keep doing its own thing, with its unique mix of history, culture, and that undeniable Cuban spirit.